bear with me because this is new for me too. All right. So I'm going to start with some introductions. All right. Let's just, I want to hear everybody's name. I want to make sure you can hear me. And then I want to, on the whiteboard, I have a question for you. All right. So my name is Dr. Dave. And I am, I've been doing science for over 15 years, probably closer to 18 years. And I don't do the science anymore, technically. I have a little workspace here in my office, and I'm going to show you in a bit. But what my job is now is to teach science to kids and get other students excited about doing science. All right. This is, oh, there's some more people here, admitting people. This is my first time doing this type of activity, so you gotta have to bear with me. If you have a question, feel free to unmute yourself and kind of interrupt me as we go. And if that doesn't work out, if that for some reason gets a little bit too chaotic, what I might ask you to do is raise your hand or throw a question up in the chat box. Sound good? All right. So again, my name's Dr. Dave. Let's see, Caitlin. I see you first on my screen. How are you? What's your name and what grade are you in?
Caitlin, 7th.
Caitlin, 7th. How about Destiny?
Destiny, 6th.
6th and 7th. Layla.
I'm in 6th grade and my name's Layla.
All right. Mr. Burnside, you want to say hi?
Hi, I'm Mr. Burnside. I teach 8th grade.
Awesome. Thanks. Nikki.
Here, I'm in 7th grade.
7th. Okay, 6th, 7th. Helen, are you there?
Yeah, Helen, 7th.
7th, great. So I should probably tell you I also have a 7th grade daughter. My wife is a 7th grade math teacher, and I have a 5th grade daughter as well. So I'm right there with you guys. Miss Shimkus.
That's me, 6th grade teacher.
6th, thank you. Miss Morel.
I teach a 6th grade reading and language arts.
Great. Dan.
I'm Dan and I'm in 8th grade.
8th grade. Jaden.
Hi, I'm in 6th grade. My name's Jaden.
Hi, nice to meet everybody. Ashika.
I'm Ashika and I'm in 8th grade.
8th, all right. Pamela.
Pamela, I'm in 6th grade.
Joanna. Yep, Joanna's muted.
Her audio doesn't work on her iPad.
Okay.
She's texting.
Hi, Joanna.
She's chatting you.
Yeah, she can chat you.
Okay, cool. Jaden. Jaden, can you unmute? Let me see if I can do that for you. Unmute audio. Nope. All right. Hi, Jaden. Oh, there you go.
I think she already said hi.
Oh, she did. Okay, my bad. I'm getting my boxes confused. And how about Shayna?
I'm in 8th.
8th grade. Hi, Shayna. Anybody else that I missed? All right. Well, thanks for jumping on the call today. I hope I have something fun planned for you. And I want to start out with a question on the board. And if you can't see the whiteboard, let me see if I can highlight it quick. Spotlight the whiteboard. Can anybody see that? It says, hi, students. What does a scientist look like? So if you can, close your eyes or just look up in the air, look at your ceiling. And I want you to picture in your mind what a scientist looks like. All right, take about 5 seconds. Come up with some features that you think represent a scientist. All right, who wants to volunteer what they pictured in their mind? Yes, Layla.
Most scientists use chemicals.
Chemicals, all right. So they might have some sort of flask in their hand, right? That they're holding up and swirling around with some sort of bubbling chemical in it. That's what a lot of students picture. Yeah. Nikki, was that you that was chiming in?
Yeah. So what they would look like is that
Yep.
they would wear a giant white coat, which is known as the lab coat,
Yep.
and a shirt that fits in a tuxedo.
No.
Okay, and with a tie, and with jeans with a belt to
Okay.
secure it in place, along with tuxedo shoes.
Cool. Wow, that's a really decked out scientist right there. You got it down to a science.
I love science.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What
science
else do people picture when they picture a scientist?
When they picture a scientist?
Yeah, like what does their face look like to you? What somebody else that hasn't answered, you can unmute yourself and chime in.
There's like black stuff on their face, but like if there was like an explosion with the chemicals.
Okay, so we're back on the chemicals with an explosion, like it just blew up in their face and they have soot on their face. Yes. Let me take one more. Who else wants to tell me what they think a scientist looks like? All right. Well, let me tell you, we've a lot of people have asked this question to students just like you. And the most common 3 characteristics that describe a scientist are this. Ready? An old white man. Okay. Most people and most students picture an old white guy with crazy white hair and a big bushy beard. Right? Kind of like Albert Einstein. I think a lot of people picture Albert Einstein as a scientist. But I'm here to tell you today that I'm a scientist. And I might be getting old, but I don't have gray hair yet. I don't have a big white bushy beard. I'm not wearing a lab coat. But science crosses racial boundaries and culture and gender boundaries. Okay, so whether you're male or female, you can become a scientist. Whether you're black, white, or brown, you can become a scientist. And we're going to dip into that just a little bit today to try to show you how you can maybe start doing some science even in your own home. Okay, so did everybody get this? Did everybody have the opportunity to look at this at all? No, in your Google Classroom? All right, so if you have a piece of paper then, what I want you to do is I just want you to break out a piece of paper and maybe something to write with, because I want you to take some observations today. All right, scientists make observations and we write that stuff down. And while you're doing that, I just want to ask you one more question. What is science? Right? I asked you what a scientist looks like, but what actually is science? What are you doing when you do science?
A lot. I know a lot.
All right, I'm going to hold off on you just for a second, Nikki. Sounds like you're enthusiastic. I'm going to see if some of these others that have been on mute the whole time want to chime in. Can you name a particular type of science to me? Let's start there.
Some particular sciences for me.
Just give me a second. I'm going to see if anybody else can chime in. I'll come back to you, Nikki. All right.
Okay.
What kind of sciences have you heard about? Caitlin, how about you? You're right in the middle of my screen.
I don't know. I don't really like science. So.
Okay, well, that's fine too. But we should know about science, even if you don't like it. I think it's good to know what science is good for. So, anybody else before I get back to Nikki?
Does anyone remember the type of science we talked about if you had me for enrichment? I had the first 2 groups. Jay, do you remember what we talked about? Remember the video?
I was going to say physical science.
Physical science. Yep. That's definitely an area of science. Physical science and physics. That's right. Anybody hear of chemistry? We already talked about the chemicals in the scientists' hands or blowing up in their face. Chemistry is a type of science. Nikki, you want to give me one more?
I basically have a lot. There's like the study of viruses, bacteria, biology, which is the study of animals and plants, and technology, which is the study of like machines and there's also
All right, let me stop you there. All right, you said biology. Biology, for those of you that don't know, is the study of life. Bio means living things or life. So as a biologist, I study living things. And well, I have some living things actually right here on my phone right now. Let's see if I can find that and spotlight that for everybody. I think this is how we do it. Can everybody see that?
what is that tiny stuff moving?
What is that tiny stuff moving? That is my next question for you. What do you think that tiny stuff moving around is?
I never seen anything like it, but
All right. Well, give me
guess.
something that comes to mind.
Bacteria.
Bacteria. That's a great answer. Anybody else?
It might be chemicals in the water.
Chemicals in the water. Okay. Could that be the coronavirus?
Can I take a guess?
Sure.
Is that like krill or shrimp?
Sea monkeys or like the.
Ah, okay. So I was going to give you a hint. The hint would be that yes, they are swimming around in water, they are kind of like a sea monkey, actually. They're called it's called a Daphnia or a water flea. And if you were thinking about bacteria, that was a great answer. It was a great thought. But actually, bacteria would probably be hundreds, if not thousands of times smaller than those. All right. Bacteria and viruses, like the coronavirus, we would not even be able to see with our own eyes. All right. We would need another piece of equipment that I'm going to get into in just a little bit. All right. So I'm going to come over and I'm going to go over here and get my phone back and show you what you were looking at. Okay. This is what you are looking at. They are little tiny fleas swimming around in the water. And that's just one of my fish tanks that I have. Okay. Here's another one. And I think some of you may have heard about these guys a little bit. These are cave fish that come from Mexico, and they actually don't have any eyes. If you look carefully, you'll be able to see that they are completely devoid of eyes. Okay, here are some other fish. Here's another set of fish. And here is my little lab bench that we're going to be working at today. Okay, this is my office. And here are some baby fish, actually. Little tiny baby fish back there swimming around. Oops, there they are. They're scared of me right now. Okay. So we're going to actually talk a little bit more about the Daphnia. All right. Again, they are swimming in water. They are found in fresh bodies of water like lakes and ponds. And if you've ever gone swimming in a lake or a pond, you've probably actually come in contact with these little things and never even knew they were there. Okay, because they are small. They're actually a type of crustacea. A crustacea is like a shelled fish or a shelled animal, like a shrimp or a crab or a lobster, all right, or a crayfish. They live in the water, they have shells, and that helps to protect them. All right, they don't, as far as we know, they don't do a ton. They're part of a food chain. Have you all heard of a food chain before? Mm-hmm. Yep. So like there's things on the top that eat things underneath it, and those things eat things underneath it, and those things eat things underneath it. All right, and this whole web of interactions in this environment keeps our environment healthy and alive. So they are a tiny, what's called zooplankton in fresh bodies of water. So they don't live in the ocean. They don't live in salt water. They live in fresh water. And they're part of a food chain. And as I showed you over here, right, they're pretty easy to maintain in your own home, actually, either. So I grow a lot of things in my office. I like biology. All right, so what I want to show you today is I want to show you what these Daphnia look like underneath a microscope. Does anybody know what a microscope is?
I know, but I'm gonna get. I know.
Somebody else's.
I know.
Somebody who hasn't answered one of my questions yet today. Maybe Pamela or Joanna that I'm looking at my screen now. What is a microscope? How about Ashika?
It's a thing to like magnify things.
That's right. Great answer. It's a device, a piece of equipment that scientists use to magnify things. Here's one right here. And when we say magnify, we just want to make things bigger than what they normally appear. All right. So here's a microscope that I have at my desk, and there's certain parts of a microscope that we can talk about. All right. Let's go through that quickly. Up here, let me spotlight the microscope. My phone again. Let me go back down here. Bear with me a second. All right. Can everybody see the microscope?
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
So here, these pieces right here, those are called eyepieces or objectives. And this is where I'm going to put my eyes up to. And you'll actually see that there's a number written on there. It says 10x. So each one of these, in each eye, I get 10 times the magnification of what I would normally see. All right. This here is called the body of the microscope. This is the stem of the microscope back here. These little knobs right here, this helps me to focus on the image that I'm looking at. So these are the focal knobs or the focus knobs. And this right here, this is called the stage. And under the stage, if I take this little plate off, you see a light source under the stage. And I can flip this switch, and I can actually make the light source come from underneath the microscope objective. Okay. And then this number right there, that's another magnification. So this gives me 2 times as much magnification as I would with just this. Okay. So if I get 10 times magnification from from one of these, and I get 2 from this, that means I'm seeing whatever I'm looking at, I'm seeing it 20 times, 2 times 10, 20 times as big. And in fact, I can rotate this and it now gives me 4 times. So I can look at something 40 times as big as I would with my own eyes using a microscope. Okay, so this is what we're going to use today. We're going to use a microscope, and believe it or not, you can actually take your cell phone or your mobile device, and you can turn it on this one. You can actually focus it right through the objective and see my worms, for example, that are swimming around on this plate. See the worms?
Yuck.
They're awesome.
Yeah, I know, but there are some worms that are.
They're bubbly.
Yeah, do you see that bubble on one of them?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you want to know why it has a bubble?
Why?
Yeah.
It actually has a disease. That bubble is a tumor. Do you know what diseases come with tumors? Or do you know what tumors, how do I want to word that question? What disease causes tumors?
Can I take a guess?
Go for it.
Is it cancer or?
It is cancer. You got it. So if somebody has a disease that we know of as cancer, which I'm probably sure most of us have heard of that, oftentimes you'll get something called a tumor. So these worms have a tumor growing on their body. So these worms have cancer. And in fact, scientists are taking advantage of these worms that are so small to study cancer. We're learning a lot about cancer, even from something that we need a microscope to see. All right, but we're actually not going to be looking at worms today. I want to focus on something else, and I want to spotlight my my other iPad, because I want to go through this process with you. Can everybody see me at my lab bench now?
Yeah.
All right. So I want to get Daphnia under the microscope. All right. So how are we going to do that? Well, I actually I scooped some of them out and put them in this little, how's that looking? This little jar. All right. And we want to use something else. Anybody know what this is called? This is called a petri dish.
I knew that.
Okay, a petri dish is just something that we can store a live biological specimen in. It has a bottom and a top, so we can keep it covered. All right, so I have 2 bottoms here, and what I want to do is I want to take some of the Daphnia out, and I want to put it into that petri dish. So how am I going to do that, and how am I going to stop them from swimming around? Because we already saw how fast they move. So what I also need is I need a piece of a cotton ball. All right, so that's just a piece of cotton that I ripped off from a cotton ball. And I'm going to put one in each of these dishes. And then I need to get the Daphnia from the water into this dish. And I don't want to just dump it in there, because then I have too much water. So I need this little thing. It's called a transfer pipette. And what it does is if I squeeze it, that little bulb on top, I'm going to squeeze that bulb, and it's going to help me to suck up some water. So let me just show you what that looks like. Okay. Maybe you can see the water now inside of the petri dish. So I'm going to put some water in each of these dishes. All right, because remember that the Daphnia need water to live. Without water, they would just die like a fish when they're out of water. All right, now I'm going to suck up a couple Daphnia and put them on the plate. And what I want you to do is, when you see them, I would like you to draw on that piece of paper that I asked you to take out. I would like you to draw what you see. All right. Now, again, I use the cotton because if I don't use the cotton, then they're going to swim all around, and they won't, you won't be able to see them because they swim way too fast. So instead, let me look through the microscope, put my eyes up to the eyepieces, right? Let's zoom into 40 times magnification here. And what we're going to look at are little Daphnia swimming around. So let me now spotlight my phone again. So everybody can see these little Daphnia. Is everybody seeing that?
Yeah.
So that's what you were looking at in my fish tank originally, okay? And we had all sorts of ideas about what it was. It was a sea monkey. It was a bacteria. It was chemicals bubbling or floating in the water, right? But look at the beauty of these animals when we put them under a microscope. All right, now they're actually swimming around quite a bit. What do you think that thing is in its belly area moving around?
Hey, Dave.
Yeah.
Can you just check the waiting room?
Oh, sorry. Yep. Lost track of that. There you go.
Mommy, look at this.
Can you see that thing moving around in
Yeah.
its belly? What do you think that is?
Legs.
That's a great guess. It's not legs, though. Whoops. What else? Anybody else want to take a guess? Let me focus it. I'm going to use my focal knobs to focus it again. All right, so they're not legs. Say that again?
It's that its arms.
Nope, they actually don't have any arms at all.
Organs.
Organs. Now we're getting closer. That's a great idea. What organ does a fish have that we do not have? Does anybody know how a fish breathes?
Gills.
Gills. That's right. Those are the Daphnia's gills. Okay? So it's moving all the water around inside to help it breathe. Okay? What do we use to breathe?
Our nose.
But what organ do we use to breathe?
Lungs.
Our lungs. Okay?
Ooh, is it
So we don't have
chocolate?
gills, and the Daphnia don't have any lungs. All right? Now I'm going to try to focus a little bit more because there's something I wanted you to see, which I'm not sure with Zoom if I'm going to be able to zoom into that Daphnia anymore.
Yes, it's amazing.
So let me take you through it a little bit. This was a little more difficult than I thought because I can't actually point at anything on the screen for you. But do you see that black dot at the top?
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you think that black dot is if you think about a human?
I already know that.
Eye.
Yes. You guys got it. That is the eye. And in fact, it only has one eye. And it looks like it wants to show it to you right now. It's trying to flip over onto its back. But it only has that one eye. Okay? But it is able to sense light with that eye, which kind of helps it to see. Do you notice something green inside of the Daphnia?
Yeah.
All right. Anybody want to take a guess what that might be?
The spine.
Yeah.
That's a great guess. It's on its back. You might think it's a spine. They actually don't have any bones or spines in their body at all.
Yeah.
The backbone.
Nope, no backbone in these guys. Good guess, though. Now, let me give you a hint, all right? These Daphnia eat seaweed or algae, should I say, from my fish tank. So what do you think? Yes. That is their digestive system, like their stomach and their throat and their intestines. Probably not as complex as ours, but it must have just had something to eat because you can see that its digestive system is all green. Oops. And what I really wanted to show you, which I'm not sure we're going to be able to see it today, because I have to zoom in a little bit more, and I don't think I can do that while I'm on the call. There you go. Now you can see it's one eye looking right at you. It's black eye. Okay. Let me just check the other plate and see if I can get a better angle at this. Let's see. No, I don't think we're going to be able to see it live because of I want to show you the heart, and how I'm going to do that now is I'm actually going to open up a video that I took this morning of these Daphnia. All right, so now let me share. Can you see that video on my screen or no?
No.
No.
Yeah.
Okay. So let me try to make myself the presenter here. Bear with me a second, please. Let's see. How do I do that? If anybody has suggestion on how I make myself and share my screen, let me know. Oh, here we go. Share screen. There. Sorry. Here we go. Photos. Share. Are you able to see that?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So this is a video that I took this morning. And if you look right back here, do you see that little structure? Can you see my mouse here?
Yeah.
All right. So this right here is its heart beating. And if you notice in the beginning of this video, see how fast it's beating?
Yeah.
It's beating really fast. Now imagine trying to count how many times per minute that beats. What I did is I put my cell phone into slow motion, and now it's a lot easier to count because I could do this. And so we could actually use the heart rate and do an experiment in the classroom or even at your own home if you were able to grow some of these Daphnia. Because does anybody have a relative, perhaps a parent or a guardian that drinks coffee?
Yeah.
Yep, I do every day. What do you think would happen? What would you hypothesize would happen to the heart rate if I put some drops of drops of coffee into the water of this dish?
It would probably die because it can't breathe in coffee.
Actually, if I added too much coffee, then you are actually right. It would die. All right. So how about just a few drops of coffee? What do you think would do to the heart?
It would beat faster.
Yes, it would beat faster. So this is something that you could actually do. You could run your own science experiment. You could hypothesize, right? Come up with a prediction about what would happen with coffee. And I just kind of gave you the answer, but you could still go back and do this experiment. You could put coffee in the water and see how fast the heart rate beats. Is it twice as fast? Is it only half as fast as it normally would? And if you had some, I don't know if you can see this image still, but some rubbing alcohol that you would put on a cut or something to help clean it out, you could actually put a couple drops of that into the dish of water. And what do you think would happen to the heart rate if you put the rubbing alcohol into it?
It would go faster.
No, that's a good guess.
Slow
It's actually
down.
Yes, it's the opposite way. So alcohol does certain things to our body, and it actually slows it down a little bit. So you could actually put this rubbing alcohol that we use to clean out our wounds and our cuts. You could actually put a couple drops on here and watch the heart rate slow down drastically. So these are just some really cool things that you could do, or that scientists can do, to study what happens with other chemicals in our environment. What happens if a lake or a pond gets polluted by a company? We could ask that question with these little tiny Daphnia and see what happens to them. So that's kind of how biomedical scientists are taking advantage of using something even this small. All right, so I'm going to stop sharing this video now. I just wanted to show you, well, actually, let's come back to it. I'm just going to point out a couple more things. Right, here's the eye again. Here's the digestive system right here. If you can see my mouse on my screen, that's the digestive system. And actually, like I said, the heart is right back here. So let's see, how do I get back? I'm going to stop sharing. I'll pause share. Stop share. All right, there's our live Daphnia still sitting in our dish. Is everybody able to see that?
Yeah.
All right, so does anybody have any questions right now about the Daphnia themselves, or how a scientist might use the depth. Oh, can you actually see the heart now? Can you see the heart? I can see it. So I wasn't sure if you're able to see the heart beating live right here.
Yeah.
It's in back of the intestines. Remember where the intestine was? It's that
Yeah, I can
brownish
see
green
it.
thing. And it's beating right back there. That's right.
Mm.
Right. Or I could just, I could take them off and I could show you the worms again if I wanted to.
I don't like the worms.
Rather the worms.
Do you want to know where I found these worms?
Where?
In your backyard?
Yes, actually. We often think of worms as those earthworms that you could find in your soil, but these worms, remember, look how small they are. What you're seeing right now is 40 times as big as you would see with your own eye. But these worms actually live in the soil too, and I actually grew them. I just went and picked up some soil from my backyard, and I dropped it on one of these plates, and a couple days later, these worms started to grow out of the plate.
I don't like worms.
You don't like what you're looking at?
No.
How about
There's
some fish?
okay. I'm fine with fish.
You fine with the fish?
Yeah, fish that Miss Ferenci gave to me, but for some reason they died. I don't know why. I put food in the fish tank. I went down to eat lunch, and when I came back up, they were dead. I don't know why.
Maybe there was something inside of the fish tank that we didn't know about. That
It was the food because I had been giving them beta, even though they were mollusks, because I didn't. My mom had got. I told her to go buy some food for them, and that day was the first day I actually gave them the food, the actual food they were supposed to eat. So I think something went wrong. Yeah. So.
Yeah, animals need some care, right? Animals need a lot of care. I have two pets, two dogs. They need a lot of attention as well. So I just wanted to point this out, right? So how did I actually hook my cell phone up to the microscope? Well, all I needed was a selfie stick so I could clip my cell phone into, and I needed something to stick my selfie stick into and then stop it from moving around. So I just got this tube. It was from my daughter's arts and crafts set, and I stuffed a towel down in there, a hand towel, and you could bend this, and that's how I actually focused it right through the microscope. So there you go. All these cool ways you could actually make observations and do science in the comfort of your own home, right? You could look at things and observe things and record things through your cell phone. You could go out and try to grow these little tiny worms from some dirt in your backyard.
I have a question. Or
sure.
Comment. So I also have a microscope at home.
Mm-hmm.
And I was trying to see if I can find any bacteria, but I couldn't find any. At least I don't think. But I was wondering, how can you see bacteria with which type of microscope can you see them through? Because I have a compound microscope.
You have a compound microscope?
Yeah, I have a compound one, not binocular.
Okay. So, I think if you went up to a higher magnification, you might be able to see the bacteria. So let me just take a step back and tell the students that there's actually there's a lot of different kinds of microscopes, but the one that I showed you today, this one right here that you could see in my, on my desk, that one that we were looking at earlier, that one is called a dissecting microscope. And the ones that have the swivel neck, let me see if I can find one for you in my office here. Right. I got one, just trying to get it out here. All right, this is called a compound microscope. All right, and it has these other lenses here that really help you magnify what you're looking at a lot bigger than what this dissecting scope would be. But the disadvantage is, do you see how much space you have to work? There's not a lot of space here. Whereas the advantage of the dissecting microscope is that there's all this space that I could use to work with my samples here. So there's pluses and minuses to all of them. Whoops, what happened to my iPad here? So it sounds like Nikki has a compound microscope at home. But you still might have a hard time seeing some bacteria even with a microscope like this, Nikki. They're really small.
Yeah.
So does anybody else have any questions right now? Teachers?
I hear crickets.
Oh, good. That was awesome.
Yeah.
Well, there is this sheet. So if you wanted to go back and think about what we did today, right? You could draw the Daphnia. You could draw a picture of a heart and label it and say this was the Daphnia's heart. You could draw the eye or the digestive system, right? And then there's a couple follow-up questions that you could answer that might help you to reflect upon and think about what we did today. All right. So I think your teachers might be posting that into your Google Classroom as a little fun activity for you to do as a follow-up. And I'm happy to stay on and answer any questions, not about what we did today, but about, you know, what science is like, or about the particular science that I did or still do, I guess you could say.
I got one more question. How do you spell Daphne?
The Daphnia, it's spelled D as in dog, A, P as in P as in Peter,
Okay.
H, N as in Nancy, I, A as in apple.
Oh, it's
D-A-P-H,
Daphnia.
Daphnia. Yep.
Oh, I thought it was Daphne.
Nope. I'm glad I clarified that then.
Does anybody else have any more questions?
No.
And what do we say to Dr. Dave?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're quite
Thank you.
welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining
you.
today, and maybe we could do this again.
Maybe.
That'd be good.
All right. Thank you. I hope everyone stays safe.
Mm.
Thank you. You too.
All right.